Hi, this is Kirk, the bariatric carnivore. You ever wonder how you fatten up a pig? Well, we know that type of information. There's a lot of money to be made in learning how to fatten up pigs. The whole ag industry, particularly with animals. These guys have this down to a science. They can do experiments with critters, and they do. And they know exactly how to fatten up a pig, and the advice is pretty simple. Feed them 6 small meals a day, give them lots of vegetable oil, and give them skim milk, which is surprisingly the same advice that our government gives us on how to have a healthy lifestyle. When you look at the food pyramid, oh, by the way, they also suggest extra carbs. Yeah, the exact advice that Big Ag is giving farmers on how to fatten up hogs is actually the same advice that our government is giving us on how to be healthy. And you may be thinking, well, that's okay for pigs. It has nothing to do with humans. Oh, yes, it does. The digestive system of a pig is very similar to a human. Matter of fact, we use pigs for experiments. We're so atomically close to each other that we can take valves from pig hearts and use them in humans. There's a lot to be learned from studying animals. We use mice models all the time, but mice aren't omnivores like pigs. Pigs are omnivores. They eat the same basic diet that we do. And if you want to learn to fatten up like a pig, then eat 6 small meals a day, like our government suggests. Drink lots of skim milk. Do the vegetable oils. Do those industrial seed oils. They'll make you, they claim that it'll make you healthy, but actually it'll just end up making you fat. And when you look at the explosion of the United States and obesity, frankly, I think a lot of people are taking their advice and it's working, apparently. But, I also started looking, that got me interested. How do you fatten up a sumo wrestler? I mean, these are people that have got getting fat down to a science, because the more fat they have on them, the better off they are in their chosen sport. So, my initial thought was, gosh, if you're going to be a sumo wrestler, you got to eat lots of prime rib and fatty roast beef and all this type of stuff. No, they eat carbs. They eat a tremendous amount of carbs. I mean, if you want to fatten up a sumo wrestler, you give them carbs. Frankly, I think you ought to start taking a look at what they do and do the opposite. Then I started looking around a little bit more. I said, we've got lots of experiments that are happening on trying to help people lose weight through starvation and stuff like that. But have they ever done any experiments on trying to get people fat, like by overfeeding them? And what works to overfeed? Turns out they did. Back in the 1950s and 60s, there were quite a few experiments that were done in prisons. Back then, you could coerce a prisoner into getting time off their sentence by engaging in a medical experiment. And they did. And they did an overfeed experiment where they tried to, in Vermont, get prisoners to be fat. And they were very successful at getting prisoners to get fat by increasing the calorie content through carbs. And they let them eat all the carbs they wanted, and the more processed carbs they got, the fatter they got, and they were easily able to overfeed on calories. When they switched the experiment to overfeeding on steaks and protein and fat, they ran into a problem. I mean, here's some highly motivated prisoners who are trying to get time off their prison sentence by eating steak. And look, if you were in a prison and you got steaks for dinner, you'd think you would want to chow down, but they couldn't do it. It was almost impossible to get people to overeat calories when they were doing it on steak and fats. Interesting. Now, not, by the way, real saturated animal fat. That stuff is satiating. That makes you full. You can't overeat on it. And that's one of the beauties of the carnivore diet. When you're eating meat, you just don't overeat. When you're full. You feel it, and you quit eating. When I'm eating on a cake, back when I ate carbs, I had no problem overeating. I can munch on a cake all day long and never feel completely full. But boy, when I sit down and eat with steak, I know I'm full. That's the way it works. And frankly, it just kind of brought me back to another point that happened this week. Justin Trudeau had a press conference in Canada. He's the Prime Minister of Canada. And he was asked about the people that were injured by the vaccines. And he haughtily looked at the camera and said, well, at least our government in Canada never forced anybody to get jabbed. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. You called everybody who didn't get jabbed a grandma killer, a bad Canadian, and a racist. You told teachers they could not teach. You told doctors they couldn't, and medical professionals that they could not be in the hospital unless they were jabbed. Heck, you told truck drivers that they had to be jabbed in order to get behind the wheel of a truck by themselves. And yet you're claiming that you didn't force anybody to get jabbed? And that's kind of akin to what I believe is going to be happening in the next couple of years when it comes to cholesterol. See, in the end of the long annual report from the American Heart Association a few years ago, they put a small little line in there that said, dietary saturated fat is no longer a nutrient of concern, which is a stunning thing to see from the American Heart Association. This is an organization that for 60 years has been telling us that saturated fat was going to cause a heart attack. They are suddenly changing course, yet they did not announce it in a press release. See, we have this horrible psychopathic system when you really look at it. When you break it down, you realize that every single one of our major institutions behaves with callous disregard for your health. The government, big food, big pharma, big medicine, frankly, even some of your doctors. I mean, they may care about, the medical system in particular. They care about acute illness. When you show up at the hospital with a broken leg or you've got some sort of terrible disease, they take care of that disease quickly and well. It's the best in the world. But as far as getting you healthy, they don't care. Nobody in the government is staying up at night worrying about your health. They care about their own vested interest. They care about protecting the industry groups they're supposed to. Big food, big pharma, they care about their stockholders. That's where they have a fiduciary responsibility. It isn't to you. It isn't to your health. And if you think they do, you're wrong. You can look at their behavior and realize that that isn't true. And frankly, they don't have a fiduciary responsibility to your health. See, in this fight for your health, we are all alone in this fight. But frankly, what the cool thing is, we're all alone in this together. And we can join together with other like-minded people trying to share this message where we can learn to take care of our own health, because frankly, we're it. If you want to get healthy, you're going to have to learn this stuff on your own. It's frustrating to me, that 10 years ago, I looked like this. When I ate the American diet, when I was eating 6 small meals a day, I was over 300 pounds. I was following their advice. Then I found out from my eye doc, I was going blind. The only advice she told me was lose weight. And that's why I had bariatric surgery, because I needed to lose weight, and Weight Watchers wasn't doing it for me anymore at 50. So I started, I had bariatric surgery, lost weight, and I found out that didn't make me healthy. I'd lost weight, but my eyes were still bad. It wasn't until I learned about the wonderful world of regaining my metabolic health through a low-carb diet that I finally started regaining my health. And it's been a 10-year journey to get healthy, but it was well worth it. And frankly, I found community. I found people on the outside that had done the research and were able to share information, kind of like this channel. That's what I'm hoping we can do. We're all alone in this fight together, so please like, subscribe, share this message with others. If you think that it's important, please help other people get healthy too. I thought the other day about why am I doing this? Why am I doing these videos? And frankly, it boiled down to this. If I can help one person or 5,000, I can't change the world. I don't have any illusion that millions of people are going to be watching these videos, but if we get hundreds, if not thousands of people watching them, taking the ideas, taking control of their own health, that's 5,000 people that are saved. And that's not a bad thing to do. So that's worth doing. So that's why I'm doing this channel, and I will see you tomorrow, because this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore.